Hello, everyone. So, this is going to be another episode of the series Motivational Monday Live with your host, Aura Eleanor Martinez. And if this is the first time that you are watching this series, I'm going to introduce myself and also explain to you what motivated me to create this series. So once again, my name is Orlando Martinez, and I'm a self-discovery and empowerment coach, helping women gain total clarity in their purpose so that they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty. Now, purpose is not to be limited to just a calling, because you could be living your calling and still not be living your most purposeful life. That's because a purposeful life also consists in you enjoying greater levels of mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, heck, even financial well-being. Why not? And that's because every part of you and your life matters. Every part of you and your life matters. And what motivated me to create the series Motivational Monday Live is the fact that Mondays tend to be that day of the week where people are like, oh my God, another day of the week. And now I got to go to work, right? And I even saw on social media someone posted Monday with an S, which means it's the Sunday, but it's when you start feeling the anxiety of Monday. Now, let me tell you this. I found that funny, and it's not funny at the same time because there are people that they actually feel that way. If the start of the week makes you anxious, makes you frustrated, you're already like, oh, dreading the week, that is a sign. That is a sign that something in your life needs to change. So take that as a sign that it's time to figure out what's your next step. It's time to figure out what you should be doing instead. It's time to figure out what within you or in your life needs to be transformed, because life doesn't have to be that way. And also, it is my intention that with this series, you get more connected with yourself, right? And that you start looking forward to Mondays because you know that every Monday night, you're going to be filled with more goodness. You're going to fill your soul up with goodness, with truth, with things that uplift you. Speaking of upliftment, it is also the intention for you to continuously lift your level of consciousness. And why is this so important? Because the more you lift your level of consciousness, the more you're able to discern better, the more you're able to see things better. You start seeing more clearly. You start seeing things from a different lens. Just like if you are on the first floor and you start seeing things from a first floor level, it looks different, right? The cars look big, the buildings look big. But as you go up to the 10th floor, if you have a balcony and you step out in the balcony, things are going to start looking a little differently. You're going to start having a different perspective of how things are looking, right? And that's based on the floor that you're at. The same thing applies when you lift your level of consciousness. Based on the level of consciousness that you're at, that's going to determine how you see things. And so it's so important that you continuously rise your level of consciousness so that you can start seeing things in a different perspective. And you're going to notice that the things that once seemed very, very big, they're going to start looking a little smaller, right? The more you start lifting your level of consciousness. And so once again, the title for this episode is You Are What You Surround Yourself By. And last week, I talked about the other subtle meanings of guard your heart. And I lightly touched on this, right? I lightly mentioned this because we do get influenced by what surrounds us. And with today's topic, I'm going to go and take this a little deeper. I'm going to take this a little deeper because this does go more deeper than you can possibly imagine, right? And then I'm going to explain why is it that we do become like the people that we surround ourselves by. You're going to understand why. Why is it that you start becoming your environment? Now, when I say that you are what you surround yourself by, I mean it literally. I mean it literally. You start being your environment. You start thinking like it. You start feeling like it. You start speaking like it. You start believing like it. You start behaving like it, right? You make decisions like it. You make decisions based on it, believe it or not, right? You start looking like it. You start emanating it, meaning what? The energy that you start giving off. This is why this matters so much, because what you surround yourself by becomes all that you know if you're not mindful of that. Okay? All that you know and all that you are. This is why your surroundings matter so much. This is why. This and many more. Keep listening because it's gonna get more juicy. And this is one of the things that many times we either take it for granted, right? Or we don't give it the importance that it actually has, or we choose our surroundings based on our level of consciousness. That's right. Instead of based on what we aspire to be and do. And there are other times that we choose our surroundings based on our layers, right? And if you're new to me and the work that I do, when I say layers, what I mean with that is any limiting belief, any story that you keep telling yourself, a mental programming that you may have, a cultural conditioning, a societal conditioning, something that I like to call a hunger. And what is a hunger? I use that term to describe a need that has transitioned from being a normal need to a need that has become obsessive, an obsessive need. If you're wondering what's an example of that, an example of that would be, say, for example, love. Love is a normal need. We all have that need to be loved and to love. If that becomes a hunger, the way it looks like is, I gotta have that person, even though that person's not healthy for you, I gotta have it. Becomes almost like an exception, right? Like it really exceeds logic, reasoning, and what's even convenient for you. Okay. The majority of the time, the reason why we find ourselves in surroundings that we either don't like or we don't enjoy or that are somewhat abusive is because of this, because the decision is being made based on a layer, right? And this is why that inner work is so important, to really eliminate, right? Really find out and really eliminate those layers. So I'm going to break this down for you because it's good to break it down just so you can really get how this even works and how profound this is. Because sometimes we may listen to something, but not really like get it. And I want you to really get this at its core. If you notice that you find yourself in relationships or friendships or in a work environment or in a home, by the way, home is the ambience that you and the people that you live with create. It is not a house. A house and a home are two different things. The house is actually the physical part, right? Whereas the home is the things that we cannot see. It's like the energy in it, the ambience, all right? So not the same thing. So if you notice that you find yourself in surroundings and relationships, right, that don't grow you, that don't expand you, that bring out the worst in you, that are abusive in any kind of way, whether you realize it or not, you made that choice based on a layer, right? Whether that layer is low self-esteem or lack of self-worth or desperateness, even desperateness is a layer, right? So if you're wondering, what do I mean with when I say surroundings? Sometimes we tend to limit this to just family members or friends or a romantic partner, but it is so much more than that, right? Yes, it is friends. Yes, it is a romantic partner, a husband, a wife. Yes, it is family members, but it is also your job or your career, right? Because that started becoming your surrounding. Whatever, wherever you go for recreation, that becomes your environment, right? Your surrounding, your social media, believe it or not, your social media, the people that you follow, the groups that you are a part of, that becomes a part of your surrounding, right? It's also the conversations that you have with others, believe it or not. I think I forgot to mention that in the Spanish version, but that's very important too, right? Because you start becoming what you converse about. You may not look at it as an environment because you think it's just the physical, but it's also those things that it's just a part of you that you surround yourself by. It's your mentor or mentors. Believe it or not, even your coach becomes a part of your surrounding, at least for that moment in time, right? And I invite you to consider the following. This is something that many times we don't even consider. Not only do you become your environment because it influences you on so many levels, but your surroundings are also a reflection of you. It's a reflection of you. They are a reflection of your values, of your aspirations, of how you feel about yourself, of how you think about yourself. I bet you never thought about that, huh? Yeah. This is real deep. The fact that you are listening to this, and not only are you being influenced by what I'm sharing with you here and by what you're listening to, but also you watching this reflects to you the fact that you value personal growth. You value it. You value deeper understanding of yourself, right? And on some level, it also reflects the fact that you crave something deeper out of life. That is aspirations, right? This is why I say that this runs deep. This runs deep. This is why your surroundings matter. They matter more than you can possibly imagine. And all these things, they impact whether or not you're going to step into your most purposeful life, right? It does. Even what you choose not to surround yourself by says a lot about you. Oh, yes, it does. So, what you choose not to surround yourself by say about you? Well, they say what your standards are. They sure do, right? And also, believe it or not, this is going to be very insightful. So keep listening. It also says about what maybe possibly some of your triggers. Okay, I'm going to explain what I mean with that so you can really get how profound and how amazing this is, right? When you really look at it for what it really is. I'm going to explain what I mean with the fact that it says a lot about what your triggers are. If you choose not to follow someone because supposedly, thank you for the likes. I'm so glad you're enjoying this. Because supposedly they're more successful than you or they're making more money than you, right? Say, for example, that's the reason why you're not following someone. They're triggering that in you. That says a lot about you, not so much about the other person, but about you. That there's some insecurities within yourself. And the reason why I can say this so confidently is because I have been guilty of that. I used to be triggered. I'm going to admit, when I used to see other people more successful than me, I used to be triggered, right? Now I actually seek people that make much more than me and that are much more successful than me. Forget that. But that's because I see the truth of that. And the truth is that it's only a matter of time that I'm going to become like them. So this is why I say that your surroundings matter. You start becoming them. If it triggers you that someone is more successful than you, that's an invitation for you to see something within yourself, right? That's an invitation. The triggers They are so valuable. So many times we make the mistake of running away from the triggers. Like if someone triggers us, oh, I don't want to be around that person. No, triggers are so valuable for you because they have a very important information for you. They provide you with insight, right? With the opportunity for you to grow, to expand as a person. It's an opportunity to remove any impurities that are within you. And when I say impurities, I mean anything that comes from fear. Now, there are certain fears that are innate within us because we're born with them. So they're natural fears, such as the fear of abandonment or the fear of separation. I mean, those are fears that we're born with. You want an example of what I'm just saying? For instance, babies. What happens when you separate the baby from the mother? Like, say, for example, the mother is carrying the baby. Haven't you noticed that kids, when they're separated from their parents, they start to cry? Ah, right? Those are normal fears that we're born with. But that's not the fear that I'm referring to here. The fear that I'm referring to when it comes to impurities are lack of courage, lack of confidence, lack of trust. By the way, if you lack trust within yourself, by default, you lack confidence in yourself. Even though these two things are slightly different, but they go hand in hand. Because if you lack trust in yourself, that's an indicator that you are not confident in yourself. Someone that's confident in themselves, they trust themselves. They trust that they have the ability to do what it takes. They trust that they're going to get the work done. They trust. So if you lack any trust within yourself, trust, no pun intended, that you lack confidence as well, because they both go hand in hand. Also, some impurities are also lack of self-esteem, and the list goes on and on. They are impurities because we were not born with these kinds of fears, if you think about it. We were not born with it. Somewhere along the way, if you have any of these impurities, any of these fears, somewhere along the way, you learned that. You learn to lack confidence in yourself. You learn to not trust yourself. You learn to lack courage in yourself. As kids, we are already courageous, playful, confident, bold, creative. We're born like that. All you have to do is look at kids to see how true this is, right? Today, I went to Burger King to buy some burgers for my mom. And as I'm here waiting for the burgers to arrive, I see this little girl on her stroller telling her mom, I want it now. And the mother is like, no, not now. No, now, mom, I want it now. And all I'm thinking to myself as I'm seeing this is, oh my God, this girl is bold. She's bold. She's like persistent. She's not taking no for an answer, right? Imagine if us as adults had a little bit of that kind of boldness. Of course, in a different tone and with different words, right? Because you cannot tell people, no, I want it now. You can't do that as an adult, right? But you could be bold to say what you want, right? To express a need. Kids know how to do that naturally. We were born knowing how to do that. But along the way, we were told, no, you cannot. This is impossible. Or whatever, right? Either by a teacher, a parent, a relative, right? The things that we learn with our classmates. You learn these things. This is why inner work is so important. This is why you removing these impurities, because if you think that these things are not going to stand in the way of those big dreams, of those big goals, of that life that you envision for yourself, yes, they are. Yes, they are. The majority of the times these are the impurities that are standing in the way. Not the very thing that we think that is standing in the way, but these impurities. And these are the things that we need to be working on. And if you are wanting to work on this, just schedule your clarity call with me. I'm always putting the link, or you can DM me and we could schedule that call. Anyways, I can tell you from personal experience that many times we choose surroundings based on these impurities, right? Those layers that they have nothing to do with us. And the more that you ignore these impurities, these layers, right? The more you keep yourself in the same surrounding. And it seems like nothing changes. But that's because the change first has to occur within for you to see the change out. Now, how does it work that you become what you surround yourself by? You may not even mean to become your surroundings. It's not something that I'm going to become my surroundings, right? You don't necessarily mean to. This is something that happens so out of our awareness, right? And this is why when you're wanting to transform yourself in your life, it becomes important that you are intentional when it comes to your surroundings, right? Because they influence you in deep ways that you may not even be aware of. So you've got to be intentional about it. So the way that this even works is, number one, you become conditioned by what you see, by what you hear, by what you say, right? By what you smell. Our senses play a big role in us being conditioned, right? They reinforce those conditionings. They make it even stronger, right? And so these things that you're exposed to, when you're repeatedly exposed to them, you are creating neural pathways in your brain that are either creating new beliefs, so they're weakening the neural pathways that you already have in your brain, or they're reinforcing what you already believe about yourself in your life. They're doing one of those two. And this is why it's so important that you become so aware, that you gain awareness, consciousness in terms of any layer that may be occurring. Because that layer, when you're operating from that layer and you're not aware of it, you already have neural pathways that reinforces whatever belief that's behind that layer. So say, for example, if you have low self-esteem, for you to have low self-esteem, there are certain things that you think about yourself. There are certain beliefs that you have about yourself. And so when that's going on, obviously you're going to choose someone that's going to be a match of what you believe about yourself, of what you believe that you can have, of what you believe of how you should be treated, right? It's all these things. And so what that person is going to do is they're going to feed that layer, right? Because you chose from that layer. So they just start feeding it, making that neural pathway stronger and stronger and stronger. This is why it then becomes harder for you to leave that person, right? For you to leave those habits. When you notice that a habit becomes very hard to break, that neural pathway is very, very strong. So you got to give yourself grace and time to weaken that neural pathway in your brain that says, okay, this is what we need to be doing, right? This is the truth. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And vice versa. Someone that has high self-esteem, they have certain beliefs already about themselves that sustain that high self-esteem. And so they're going to be allergic to any kind of mistreatment. They're going to recognize and they're going to be allergic to it because it doesn't feed what they already believe about themselves. You see how this works? Okay? The other way that this works, that we start becoming our surrounding, is that we also tend to mimic the mannerisms, the way of talking, and just the overall being. We start becoming, we start being like our environment, right? So you gotta be mindful of who you surround yourself by. You're gonna start talking like them. You're gonna start behaving like them. You're gonna start thinking like them. You're gonna start making decisions like them, right? We tend to mimic it and we don't even realize it. We don't even intend to. It just happens. It just happens. We tend to mirror each other. We tend to mirror each other. Okay. And the third way that this works, that we start becoming our environment, our surroundings, is that the environment also affects. This is why this is so important, right? The environment, what we're surrounded by, what we see every day, what we hear, what we listen to, what we're like breathing, living, whatever, it affects the standards that we set for ourselves. So this is going to affect the standard that you set for yourself. Okay. Coming from the South Bronx, because I come from the South Bronx, I don't come from people with money or anything like that. I didn't dare to dream really, 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 really big, right? Because it wasn't really modeled for me that I could think big and I can dream big or whatnot. So you see how this works? And it wasn't until I started working with my mentor that she helped me get to the core of who I really am, right? And what I'm all about and what my true values are, regardless of my culture, of where I grew up, of the people that I'm surrounded by, that I was able to get a real sense, a strong sense of who I really am. This is why it's so important to have a strong sense of self, to have a strong sense of who you really are. Because when you lack that, when you lack that strong sense of who you really are, you're not able to discern the right surrounding for you. You're not able to. You're not able to have that capacity to really judge, this is right for me, right? This is why the inner work is so important. To get to the core. So many times we think that we are what we are seeing, and that may not even be who you really are. You just became that by default, right? And that's then how we start living by default. When you want to be a creator of your life, this level of awareness is extremely important. And really peeling these layers, really peeling these impurities to really get to the core of who you really are so that you can make decisions based on that core, not the layer, not the low self-esteem, not what culture said, not what society said, not what family said. Do you get where I'm going with this? This is why this matters. This is why this is uber important. And we fail to realize that. What about if who you really are is completely different from how you've been living all this time? You know how many times people go through life then realizing, oh my God, this is not who I was all this time. I just did this because this is what I was told I should do in order to be successful in life. And that's how we end up waking one day and we're like, why is my life like this? Why am I frustrated? Why is it that it's just not clicking? This is why that process of self-discovery is so important. Because every time you do this inner work and you remove a layer after a layer after a layer, you're able to step more and more into your power. You're able to remove what doesn't pertain to you. The more you remove what doesn't pertain to you, the more you have access to your own truth. The more you have access to your more truth, the more you're able to live authentically. Right? Rather than trying to fit in and trying to be like everybody else. You're not like everybody else. You are you. And the sooner you know who you really are, Not the superficial, my name is so and so, and I am from so and my parents are so and so. No, like, who are you? Regardless of all of that, who are you? That's the you that you want to discover. That's the you. Because that's what holds the key to the life that you want. That's what holds the key to the happiness that you want. That's what holds the key to the fulfillment that you're seeking. That you, not all the other you. I didn't say that in well, I kind of did in the Spanish version. So if you speak both languages and you watch both, you reinforce this message, and then you get other things that you probably didn't get in the other language. Just saying, right? And so this is how you start transforming your life on a very deep way, in a way that you just do not go back. Because once you do this level of work, seriously, there's no going back. And even if you kind of go back, the going back is just an indicator that there's something else that needed to be healed. Because see, when you have a huge wound that you've healed, that wound probably created other mini micro wounds that also need to be healed in the process. So don't think that because you took one step back that now you're, oh my God, no. You're still taking a lot of steps forward. But the real long-lasting transformation, this is the work. So if you're ready to step into your most purposeful life, you're ready to gain clarity as to what the season is in your life for you, what your next step needs to be, what is your true vision, not a vision that was placed upon you based on whoever, whatever. If you want to uncover what are those blocks, what are those layers, right? And transform those blocks into stepping stones that take you closer and closer to who you really are and to that life that you so crave. And you want to start aligning yourself to that vision that you have. Because after all that work, just because you do that work doesn't necessarily mean that you are aligned to the new vision. You got to connect yourself now to that new version of you, right? Because at first it can feel weird. Then I'm going to highly recommend that you schedule that clarity call with me, because in that call, we're going to go over where you are now, where you desire to be, what is needed to close that gap, and how I'm able to help you close that gap. You don't need to be going in circles anymore. It's already March. How do you want your life to be by the end of the month, by the end of April, by the end of May? You don't need to keep waiting. See, because the waiting only delays your transformation, only delays your vision, only delays what's possible for you. You are the best investment that you can ever make in every regards possible. So if you're ready for that, schedule a clarity call with me. You can either click, well, I don't think I have the link here. Well, I'm always putting the link everywhere. So you could click on the link to schedule the clarity call or message me. Send me a message or email me. And let's get you scheduled in. Let's see how I'm able to help you. Let's see what needs to occur in order to close that gap. It is my sincere desire that you really allow this message to sink in, because the profoundness of this topic alone, that you become what you surround yourself by, it really runs deep. It really runs deep. And many times the reason why we don't transform ourselves and our life is because of this. We don't realize the impact that our environment has in us, our surroundings have in us, and how the surroundings also reflect who we really are. So if we notice that the surroundings is not changing, then it's us that needs to change, right? See how powerful this is? This is powerful. So let it sink in. And I'm also going to ask that you share this video with other people. You never know what someone that you know may be going through. You know how many times we get surprised to learn that so and so was going through such and such thing? So share this video with those you know. Share it on your platform. You never know who can be transformed by these words that are shared in this video. And with that said, it is my desire that you live life to the max the way you are destined to live. And until next time, bye for now.